Hello everybody, today I'm going to be showing you how to use pipe cleaners to make detailed action figures like these. Alright, let's get started. We're going to start off by making the head, and for the head, we're going to use references and a single pipe cleaner to make the frame. So I am making Tochi Fushiguro, and these are my references, this one right here, and this one right here. We're going to start off by pinching the pipe cleaner into this little triangle shape, and pinching the bottom to make it pointy. And then once you get to this shape right here, we're going to pull the pipe cleaners apart to make the proper jaw shape, just like this. Now after we do this, we're going to turn the pipe cleaner jaw horizontally, and we're going to make one vertical fold on each side, just like this. And then we're going to do it on the other side as well. After completing that step, you should end up with a shape that looks like this at the bottom, and a shape that looks like this in the back. After this, the next step is to fold one of the vertical folds downwards to create the back of the head or face. And then after doing this, all we're going to do is wrap the pipe cleaner around the other one that is not folded, just as I am doing currently. Once you complete that step, you should end up with a shape that looks similar to what I have right here. Once we are here, the next step is to create the shape for the forehead. And we're going to do that by creating this semicircle with the one that we already folded, just as shown. And then all we're going to do once we have the semicircle shape that we desire is we're going to wrap the remaining amount of pipe cleaner around the top of the area that we already folded, just as I am doing currently. This should leave you with something that looks similar to this. And the next step after this is to take the strand that is longer and fold it around the center of the semicircle that we just made. We are then going to use the remaining portion of that pipe cleaner to make the shape of the front of the face. So what I'm doing here is I'm folding it to make the desired shape and angle. So you should end up with a shape that looks like this. This is because the forehead does bend backwards. And once you get to the shape, all you're going to do is wrap the remaining amount around the middle of the bottom of the chin, just as I am about to do right here. Once you complete this step, you are going to end up with a shape that looks similar to this. If your shape does not look like this, don't worry, just redo it. The next step is to use the remaining amount of pipe cleaners from the middle of the jaw to cover the bottom of the jaw by wrapping it around, just as I am doing right now. Once you are done with this and you are satisfied with the shape, you should end up with something that looks like this. For the next step, we're going to shape the forehead, and we're going to do this by squeezing the semicircle just like this to make the forehead more round at the top instead of it being very jagged. This will help us shape the forehead to the desired shape, and obviously if your character has a flatter forehead, you don't need to do this. But because Toji Fujiguro does not have that flat of a head, you do need to do this. The step after this is we're just going to use the remaining amount of pipe cleaner from the other vertical fold, and we're just going to wrap it around, just as I'm doing currently. Once you're done with this step, you should be left with something like this. And after shaping the forehead, the next step is to fill in the rest of the face, and we're going to do this by grabbing another pipe cleaner, and we're just going to wrap it around the front of the face. And we're going to make sure to wrap it around the vertical one in the middle too, to make it more secure, just like I am doing now. After you finish wrapping around the front of the face, you're just going to use the remaining amount of pipe cleaner to finish the bottom of the jaw and start the neck. So as we did previously, we're just going to wrap around one vertical fold, and then we're going to fold it across the bottom of the jaw to finish the bottom of the jaw. And then once we wrap it around the other side, we're going to use the remaining amount of pipe cleaner, and we're going to push it through halfway across the jaw, just like this. You want to make sure that's halfway because then it rests properly across the face when it's fully done. So it should be approximately this far. Then all you're going to do is just pull it through. You have now made a basic face. If you don't want to add any more features, this is fine, and you can just skip to the hair section. But because we're going to do more, we're going to make the eyes next. For the eyes, we're just going to take a white piece of pipe cleaner and push it through the center. After pushing the pipe cleaner through the center, all we're going to do is fold the two strands over and across each other, just like I'm about to do right here. And then once we do this, all we're going to do is take about an eyeball size, and then just push it through, and we're going to do it one pipe cleaner space ahead so that doesn't just go straight through. And right here, I did make this fold, but you don't have to do it. You just have to make it straight. I only did this because I was attempting something, but now just do it on the other side. Once you do it on the other side, you should end up with a shape that looks like this, but yours can be straight, obviously. And the next step is to add the pupil. For the pupil, we're going to pull the white part out a little bit, and then we're just going to push the black right underneath the white pipe cleaner. This is especially special for this because he has a very small eye. And then we're just going to fold the black pipe cleaner over it. After completing this step, you should be left with something that looks like this, and then all we're going to do is repeat it on the other side. Once you have completed both pupils, you'll be left with something like this, and you might be thinking this doesn't look much like Toji Fushiguro, but don't worry, we're going to make the eye smaller later. But for now, we're going to use the remaining black pipe cleaner to make the hair, or at least to start the hair. And we're just going to do that by wrapping around the edges of the forehead, and then we're going to make a semicircle around the back. So once we make that semicircle, just like this, all we're going to do after that is we're going to use the remaining amount of pipe cleaner to make the back of the head, or at least the shape for the back of the head. So all we're going to do is wrap this around the semicircle in the center, similar to how we made the front of the face. And then when you're doing this, you should also just stuff in the remaining white pipe cleaner into the back of the head. And then all we're going to do once we finish wrapping around is we're just going to wrap the end of the pipe cleaner into the bottom of the chin or jaw. And then you should be left with something that looks like this. And the next step, we're going to make the nose. For the nose, all we're going to do is we're going to take one skin color pipe cleaner and we're going to stick it into the middle of the face right above the eye, or at least the white pipe cleaners. We're then going to pinch the pipe cleaner into this triangle shape or nose shape, and then we're going to use the remaining pipe cleaner to wrap around that nose shape to give the nose a bit of mass. So it's not just one flat piece. So it should end up looking something similar to this, and you should have a shape that looks very similar to this triangle shape that I have right here. And then what you're going to do, once you wrap the piece of pipe cleaner around to give it some mass, you're going to pinch the top of the nose too, so that the nose at the top is skinnier than it is at the base. And then we're going to use the remaining amount of pipe cleaner to make the eyes smaller. So for that, all we're going to do is wrap the pipe cleaner just under or just around where the eye is at the edge of the forehead. And then we're going to wrap that over the top of the eyes so that the eyes look smaller and skinnier than they were previously. So you should do something just like this. And then if you see right here, we're going to fold it right over the top. So it should end up looking something like this. And then you're just going to push it into place, make sure everything lines up, and then the eyes are looking straight. Once you finish wrapping around the top of the eyes, all we're going to do is wrap it around the edge of the head. And then we're going to use the remaining amount to wrap under the right eye to make it an even size with the left eye. So just like I'm doing right here, and then we're just going to pull the pipe cleaner through right under the eye and right next to the nose. This way it makes it the most flush and the most similar shape as the other one. A real quick tip is just if you can't get something in, just use a toothpick to give it a little bit of separation, and that should help you get it in, just like I did right there, off camera. Once you get this through and complete this step, you're going to be left with something that looks like this. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add the ears to both sides. So for the ear, we're going to turn the head to the left, and then we're going to take the remaining amount of pipe cleaner, and then we're just going to put it through the edge at near the top of the head, closer to where we started the hair. Just like this. And then once we pull it through, all we're going to do is make an ear shape, roughly. It's going to be like a circular ear shape, similar to the shape that I'm making right here. Your shape should look similar to it. Doesn't have to be exactly the same, but it should look similar. And all we're going to do is we're going to take the pipe cleaner through closer to the bottom of the face. And then once we do that, all we're going to do is fill in the ear. Now that we have this ear shape, all we're going to do is we're going to fill it in, and then we're going to wrap the pipe cleaner around the top of the ear so that we can easily move it behind the face that we made already. So just like this, we're going to wrap it around, like under and around, so that it's easily available behind. And then we're going to do the same thing for the other ear once we get it through. And you want to make sure that it gets underneath the hair and not over the hair. This will leave you with a shape that looks similar to this. And right here, all I'm doing is just slightly adjusting it, but you should end up with a shape that looks very similar to this. And now all we're going to do is make the next ear on the other side using the exact same techniques. After completing the ears, you should be left with a shape that looks like this. However, I noticed that the head was looking a bit small, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the bottom of the head down, just like I'm doing right now. This should just give you a little bit of a gap, and then all we're going to do is fill that gap in. So this is what it should look like if you follow the exact same steps and do the exact same thing that I did. So now all we're going to do is grab another piece of pipe cleaner, and we're going to cover this little extra piece of white that was sticking out on the top. And then we're going to bring the pipe cleaner down, and then we're just going to wrap it around the mouth area in more or less the same way that we did previously. Leave you with a shape that looks like this, and then all you're going to do with the remaining excess is just save it for the neck. Now we're going to add the scar. So for the scar, all we're going to do is get a darker piece of skin color pipe cleaner, and then we're going to stick it into right about where the scar is. So once you take it in, it should look something like this. And then all you're going to do is just push it through one pipe cleaner spot right above, so it's as small as possible and it's as similar to the show as possible. Once you pull it all the way through and have it fully adjusted, it should end up looking something like this. And then all you're going to do with the excess amount is just cut it off with scissors, as I am about to do right now. So when you cut it off, you want to make sure that you don't leave too much excess, and you cut off very close to the head, basically, so that there's a very little amount of excess, so that you don't have to stuff all the excess amount and actually use it. Once you're finished with that, you should end up with something like this. Next, we're going to start with the hair. For the hair, we're going to start off by going at the very top of the head, and then we're just going to make a dome shape to simulate the skull. Once we get the pipe cleaner through the top of the forehead, all we're going to do is make a dome shape with the pipe cleaner, similar to how I'm doing right now. And then what we're going to do with that pipe cleaner afterwards is wrap it around the back of the head that we previously made. Hopefully, if I'm not explaining this well enough, the video does a good job at explaining it. The dome shape should end up looking something similar to what I have right now. And now all you're going to do is just fold it across the back, around the back. And then we're going to do one more fold in between the back and the dome that we just made. This one is just so that it moves into the proper area that we want it, and then we're just going to fold it downwards into the back, onto the bottom of the neck, similar to help make the shape of the back of the head, just as I'm doing right now. And then all we're going to do for that is we're just going to push it all the way up, the pipe cleaner all the way up back to the top, so that we can use it, so that we can continue to use the pipe cleaner. Once we get the pipe cleaner to the top, all we're going to do is fill in the gap for the dome, so that the dome is solid. If you do not understand what I'm saying, hopefully it makes it more clear. If you see this gap right here, the one that I'm putting my finger behind, we're just going to fill that in, and we're just going to wrap the pipe cleaner around the top, just like this. Now the gap should be filled, and it should be more solid. After doing this, we are going to work on making the head a fully circular or fully spherical shape. And we're going to do that by taking the pipe cleaner through, and then we're going to start at the edge of the forehead where we previously started the hair, and then we're going to make it a plus shape at the top. So once we get the pipe cleaner through the side of the hair, we're just going to wrap the pipe cleaner over the previously made support, like I am doing currently. So we're just going to wrap it over and around the center, so that it is more, so it doesn't move. So just like this, we're just going to wrap it through the center, and then we're going to pull it to the other side and wrap it into the other area where we started the hair for the forehead. When we pull the pipe cleaner through the other side of the forehead, we want to make sure that we get the pipe cleaner through the center of the support that we previously made, just like I'm doing currently. So as you see, I can make it sure it goes through the center support. This way we can use the remaining amount of the pipe cleaner to make this support solid as well. So for that, we're just going to wrap it around and make it go through the middle support, and then we're just going to wrap it around the support that we just made, just like I'm doing right now. Now, once you are finished this step, you should be left with this in the back, and then this plus shape that I previously mentioned at the top. This is your support for the general skull shape. The next step is to make the actual hair strands. For the hair strands, we're just going to get smaller pieces of pipe cleaner, and the hair strands do follow pretty much the same steps. But to start off, because Toji Fushiguro has very large sideburns, or whatever you'd call them, we're just going to do that by making this zigzag shape right here. Right here, I did make it a bit too long, so I'm just going to make it a bit shorter. But then I'm just going to make this zigzag shape to simulate the 2 strands of hair that he has there. When you are making the sideburns, you want to make sure to pinch the edge so that it makes the proper triangular shape and it's not just round at the bottom. Unless your character has round hair, but that is more rare in anime characters. So especially for Toji Fushiguro, you want to make sure to pinch the end. And then, as I said, you're just going to do that zigzag shape right here. And then that will give you the sideburn. So what we're going to do with the remaining amount of pipe cleaner is we're just going to wrap it around so that we don't have to use it to make more strands of hair. And it's just going to fill out the top of the head. And then we're also going to use it to press the hair down. So as you see right here, the hair is starting to like go up constantly, right? So we're just going to wrap it around the top. And then we're going to use it to press down the hair strands that we just made. So as you see right here, I'm going to wrap it over and over the hair strands, Sorry if I explained that really poorly. But we're going to wrap it over the hair strands and then we're going to pull it tightly so that it pushes the hair strands down and it doesn't let the hair strands go up. So as you see right here, I'm going to grab the remaining piece of pipe cleaner and I'm going to pull it tightly over the hair strands, just like that. And then we're just going to wrap it around the vertical pipe cleaner that we have in the back, just like this. This will help fill in the shape for the back of the head and make the hair sit flat. Now, for the next strand of hair, where it is a smaller strand of hair and it's not a thick piece of hair, we are going to use a slightly different technique where we're going to start off by wrapping the pipe cleaner all the way around, and then we're going to leave a little bit left. So right here, I'm just wrapping the pipe cleaner around the top to fill in the hair. And then once you get to the end where you have a little bit left for the strands, you want to make sure that you have just enough to make the strand a little bit longer than the preferred length. This is because we're going to fold the end of the singular pipe cleaner so that it doesn't stab you, pretty much. The reason for only using one pipe cleaner now is because the hair strand is supposed to be much skinnier, and if we do the zigzag technique, it will make the hair too thick and it wouldn't look as well, if that makes sense. So right here, I'm going to wrap it around and then I'm just going to bring the pipe cleaner back over to the top where the hair strand is supposed to be made. So as you see here, I'm going to wrap the pipe cleaner over, and you see how the hair strand is kind of made into where it's supposed to be, but it's a little bit longer than we want it. So now we're just going to fold the very end so that the stabby part of the pipe cleaner is no longer easily accessible. So now you should be left with something that looks like this. And obviously it's going to be lifting up, so we're going to use the remaining amount of hair strands. We're going to do the exact same technique where we just wrap it around and then we use it to flatten the hair. And yeah, just repeat that a few times and then you should end up with the hair strands with the proper hair. If you are getting confused by any part of the tutorial, I posted a fully unedited video of my entire build for the head, and this will just be listed in the description. After finishing the third hair strand, you should be left with something that looks like this from the side. And then it should look something similar to this at the top, and then this on the other side. And now we're just going to do the same steps for the next hair strand. after making the fourth strand of hair, you should end up with something that looks similar to this. You can see the Toji Fushiguro shape is actually coming along quite nicely now. Now, for the next strand of hair, we're going to do something slightly different because we're going to start on the neck hair as well. So for this one, it's more or less the same. We're just going to wrap it around until we have a little bit left. But for this one, we're going to keep a little bit extra right at the bottom of the head to make the neck ears. So right here, as you see, I have a little bit extra. I'm just going to wrap it around the little piece at the bottom of the back of the neck. And I'm just going to pinch it so that there's a little bit left. So just like this, I'm going to pinch that right there. And then you see how that's the start of the neck hair. And then I'm just going to, for the strands afterward, I'm just going to add hair to the back of the neck as well. So that's all you're going to need to do for the strands afterwards. Is it's going to be the same exact step as the previous ones, except we're just going to add strands in the back of the neck to finish the overall shape. And then once you wrap the hair over, you just want to do the same thing as the previous strands and fold the edge of the singular strand. Once you're done with that step, you should be left with something that looks like this. And now let's just do it for the next strand of hair as well. Now that you've finished that strand, it should look something like this. And now we're going to go to the last strand of hair, which is the sideburn on the other side. For this one, we're going to do pretty much the same thing. Well, we're doing the exact same thing. We're just going to make the hair in the back, wrap it around, and then we're going to use the zigzag technique like we did for the first one. Should now be left with something like this after completing the hair. So now we're going to work on the neck. For the neck, all we're going to do is do a similar thing with the top of the head, but instead of making a dome, we're going to make it a rectangular shape, and then we're going to make that plus shape like we did with the top of the head as well. So we're going to fold the shorter one, and then we're going to fold it again into that rectangular shape, and we're going to connect it to the bottom of the neck, right at the back of the hair. So just like I'm doing right now, and then we're going to fold it so that it stays connected, and then you should have a shape that looks like this. After this, we're going to use the other longer pipe cleaner that we previously had to make that plus shape that we made on the top of the head. So you see right there that will make the plus shape. Now that you have created that plus shape, you should end up with a shape that looks very similar to what I have right here. And now the final, or the second last step, is to make that shape solid. So now we're going to do similar to how we did the top of the head. We're just going to fill in the gaps so that the supports are solid and we can wrap the remaining amount of pipe cleaner around it without the shape breaking. After you finish solidifying the supports, you end up with a shape that looks like this. Now for the last step, all we're going to do is wrap around the neck with the remaining amount of pipe cleaner and squeeze it into the correct shape. Once you do that, congratulations, you finished the head for Toji Fushiguro. This is what it should end up looking like. And if you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Like, subscribe, share, and please enjoy part 2, which is going to release next week. Bye!